Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today is a very sad day. Today I woke up and found out that the venue that I started out doing stand-up comedy 11 years ago, the Brainwash Cafe in San Francisco, is no more. I knew about this for the last year and a half. I read about it in the paper and on Facebook, and I'm just truly devastated. I was hoping that the Brainwash was going to be saved and that, you know, Mr. Bill Collector and everything would give them more time and give in, but unfortunately, it's not to be. I was there every Thursday night from June of 2006 to January of 2009, honing my craft, learning about stand-up comedy, just, you know, learning what stand-up comedy was, you know, and I have so much cherished memories from it that I'm glad I started at the Brainwash. I'm really glad. That was just a very interesting place, I have to say. You know, that was my comedy store. That's where I learned how to do stand-up comedy. Now, the theme of today's show is stand-up comedy. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm going to interview Stephanie Hodge, one of my favorite stand-up comedians of all time. You may remember her. She was on that show, Unhappily Ever After, you know, the sister show of Married with Children. It was on the WB back in the 90s. Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be so awesome. We're going to talk about stand-up comedy because all I ever talk about is horror movies or 80s movies on here. But now I get to talk about stand-up comedy. I'm so excited. So, let's begin. I get to call her today. Perfect.
Oh.
Stephanie?
Hey.
Hey, it's Tommy, and we are live.
Oh my God. How are you?
I am. I'm happy about this interview. I'm kind of sad though because the venue that I started out doing stand-up is no more as of today.
What?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I knew about it in the last year and a half or so. The sales of the place wasn't doing very well, and so, you know, Mr. Bill Collector took it, I guess.
Oh, man. See, that's the issue. Stand-up these days in clubs is not what it used to be, and it's sort of ruining the whole thing, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion.
No, I agree with you. It's really fucked up.
It is. It is. I don't really want to drive an hour and a half to do 3 to 5 minutes in a show that I only get if I bring 10 paying customers who say my name and I'll buy 2 drinks.
Yeah, that's so fucked up.
I don't know anybody who wants to travel that far to see me do 3 to 5 minutes.
Oh,
you can get that for free over the phone.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Yep. It's oh my God, it's such an honor to be interviewing you because to me you're the original Amy Schumer.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm nasty, but you know it's not nasty. It's just true.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, Roseanne opened the door for comics like you, you know, and you were part of that, you know, stand-up boom in the 80s, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I was the only female doing comedy in the area at the time I was there. And my influence was Rusty Warren. You know about Rusty Warren?
I've heard of him.
I follow her on Facebook to this day.
Nice.
My parents had her party albums when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, in the 50s, 60s, cocktails, wear cocktail dresses, and play Rusty Warren's naughty little LPs.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard all that stuff, and it was just, she just influenced me so much. She was the original naughty lady.
Mm-hmm. So what year did you start, and where did you start?
Let's see. I started in oh my God. I think it was 1980, and it was in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And I did time at, oh my God, I'm blanking on the name. It was an AFL-CIO union bar, Mickey Finn's.
Mm-hmm.
In Minneapolis. There wasn't any stage. There was just, those big plastic milk cartons and 2x4s laid over it with a microphone.
Right.
And it was Louis Anderson and Wild Bill Bauer and Jeff Cesario.
Wow.
And those guys had made an agreement with the bar to do stand-up. And so they put up this stage at the end of the room. And these guys, all these union guys would just go in there and drink. And they let me go on that stage before I was on any other stage. So, very supportive, very nice to me.
Nice. Yeah, I know.
I got a lot of, at that time I got a lot of crap.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't do this, you can't be funny. But, I've always had a tendency to ignore people who disagree with me, so.
Me too. I'm not very well liked in the Bay Area because in the Bay Area, it's very alternative based, and I'm just a dirty setup punchline guy, and everyone's always trying to get me to do this, do that. I don't listen to them.
I can't say, you know what, you don't ever do anything you don't want to do, because I cannot tell you the number of times I was told that I had to change everything I did, even the way I looked, which I did for a while,
mm-hmm.
to fit in. And the thing was, because men were doing all the booking, I had to do certain things that were against my better judgment and
mm-hmm.
my truth in order to get the opportunity to do it at all. And even though I was 1/3 owner of the Comedy Cabaret in Minneapolis from 1986 until we sold it,
mm-hmm.
It was one of those things where I still wasn't listened to. I was not the voice. I was the girl.
Yeah.
And that to me is the most ridiculous thing, because there's, at that time, these other guys were all, comedy is so sexy, and let's do this, and be these attractive guys. And I'm thinking, you're not talking to women. We don't care what you have to say. You have no idea.
Yeah.
About women at all. But you think you do, and that's why you're fun. Not what you're saying. It's because you're sort of a satire of yourself, and you have no clue. So there you go.
Absolutely.
God bless you. Good luck with that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't get that whole misogyny thing. I am pro-woman. It's how I was raised, and it just disgusts me how men can be sometimes.
Well, it's amazing because you see that in women too, though. I mean, you have to be fair, right? There are women who just hate men so much, or are fighting so hard for their own equality, that they're forgetting that equality means equal and not better than or more than. And so I've been vilified several times because I have refused to take part in women's projects. Because I was offered 2 very big projects that they were women's projects, and they literally used a couple of women that weren't ready to be used yet. And no offense to them, they were new and they were funny, but they weren't ready for that. And they were terrified and making mistakes because of their inexperience, and no one was helping them. And there are sitting guys out there who were ready for that exposure, who needed and deserved that exposure, but weren't going to get it because they were men. So I've never really been one for the male-female division thing. I don't want to do women's projects. I want to do people projects.
Right.
And I'd rather work with people who challenge me and make me work harder, and make me sit alone at night and 3 in the morning eating a bowl of Captain Crunch going, fuck, I need to improve.
Yeah.
And, work with somebody just because they're a woman and sit at home 3 o'clock in the morning eating Captain Crunch going, well, this never, ever ends.
Yeah.
Which sounds bad, but, I'm grateful for any work I get. That's just the truth.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the truth. Even playing bowling alleys. There's something to be gained from that.
Bowling alleys, yeah.
I played 2 bowling alleys in all these years. One of them was just funny because nobody listened. And I was there with Andy Kindler.
Mm-hmm.
And we entertained each other tremendously. We had a good time, but I'm not sure anybody else at that bowling alley knew we were there. And then the second one I did was literally one of the best audiences I've ever played to in my life.
Mm-hmm.
They put their balls down.
Well, that's good. At least they didn't blow their loads.
Oh, man.
So
I'm going to warn you. I have a cat here who's extraordinarily needy and yells at me a lot. So if you hear that, I'm not touching him, not torturing him. He's just standing there looking at me, yelling.
Oh, I've done quite a few interviews with animals making noise in the background, so it's all good.
That's because of the fires. It is. We have smoke and ash all around us, and that fire retardant stuff they drop.
Oh, yeah.
It smells terrible, and it makes your eyes itch and you cough, and these poor cats are walking around sneezing, and this one's old.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just sort of stands there and stares at me. Like it's my fault, like I can do something about it.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm just going to brush him till he's bald. He's my buddy, aren't you, my buddy?
So at what point did you move to L.A. and did you become a regular at the Comedy Store?
I moved to Los Angeles in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
Mitzi Shore, Louis Anderson, was great, and he took me to meet Mitzi Shore, and he thought I should have time at the Comedy Store. So I had to audition for Mitzi, so I did. And when I walked off stage, and this is cruel, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't really give a shit. He looks at me and says, "You're too pretty to be a comic. If you want to be a comic, you got to ugly up and get a banjo or a puppet or some shit.
Oh, God, yeah.
I don't have a place for you." So I went to the Improv, and that's where I worked.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that sounds like a typical Mitzi Shore story.
Yeah, I'm too pretty to be a comic.
She said that to so many women. Oh, my God.
There's only been 3 times in my entire career anybody told me I was too pretty for something.
Well, that's a good thing.
That was one, and then one for A House of 1,000 Corpses. I got turned down for that role because they said I was too pretty.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, man.
That's a perfect story.
The other one was just recently because they just said, "No, she's too pretty for this role," and they hired someone who was morbidly obese. And I was offended. I was offended because just because I'm a thin person doesn't mean I'm pretty, and just because that woman is obese doesn't mean she's ugly. You know what I'm saying? That's like saying all fat people are ugly, and that's fat shaming, and this girl does not tolerate that.
No, I've been fat. I've been fat for most of my life, and I've lost weight. You know, I've lost a lot of weight. I've lost up to 130 pounds before, and that's what I'm trying to do now.
Cats.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Oh yeah, it's really hard to do. It was a little bit easier when I was in my 20s, but now that I'm in my 30s, it's tough.
Oh man, I weighed 215 pounds the day I gave birth to my daughter. My normal weight is 130, so there you go.
I would love to be 215 right now. That's how much I weighed when I left the hospital after I had my car accident a couple of years ago.
Ooh. I didn't know you were in a car accident. That's terrible.
Yeah, 2.5 years ago. I was in a coma for 30 days.
Sweet Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's the best thing that ever happened to me because I don't have to work a real job now because I got metal in my leg and I can just pursue my comedy dream. You know?
Well, yeah. Well, see, bright side to everything, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
But honest to God, ever since I got so big when I was pregnant, and I'm at the gym, and I'm on an exercise bike, and some young woman looks at me and goes, I dropped my towel, you want to get that for me? That extra exercise will help you get all that fat off you. And I stood up and went, I'm 8.5 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And she goes, oh, I just thought you were fat. And I walked away with my towel. I went, you get it. Jesus.
What a bitch.
But that's hard. It's really, really hard to lose weight.
It's very hard, yeah.
But it doesn't matter. See, that's the thing that gets me is when breakdowns come in for me as an actress. Normally they say things like, was obviously once very attractive, but a hard life shows clearly on her face.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I get, and that's fine with me. I'm not the pretty girl. I'm not the ingenue. I'm not the love interest. Never have been. Actually, never wanted to be. Yeah. I'm much happier being a character actress. Much, much, much happier. And it's a lot more fun. And you get to stretch your abilities more. You get to be challenged more.
Yep.
That way. But it's just, the whole thing about size is just, it's out of control. It's been out of control for years. Mm-hmm. When my daughter in 5th grade comes home and says to me, two of my friends at school today said I was fat. And I'm looking at her and going, you're 9 years old. How can you be fat? I can pick you up. If I can pick you up, you're not fat. And even if you were, so what?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I really don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Some people can help it, and they just are more comfortable and happier being heavy. Fine, let them be.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have medical issues that keep them from being skinny minis. Fine, let them be. Why do we pick on each other so goddamn much? I don't understand it.
I don't either.
We should just go after all the assholes. And, of course, you and I are the ones who get to decide who that is.
Yep. Of course. So let me ask you: you did HBO Women of the Night that Martin Short hosted.
Yep.
Was that your first TV appearance doing stand-up?
No, it wasn't. Oh man, I can't even remember what my first one was. It was for TNT, but I can't remember what the name of it was.
TNT did a comedy.
I can't remember. It's been like over 35 years. Mm-hmm. So unless I actually look at my records, I don't remember.
Well, you were on with Ellen DeGeneres, Paula Poundstone, Rita Rudner, Judy Tenuta, Liz Wynette, and it was directed by Zane Busby.
Yeah. You know what the first one I did was Evening at the Improv.
Okay, yeah.
The first one I ever did was an Evening at the Improv, and I took 3 or 4 of those.
I love those. Oh my God, I've met a couple of comedians from the Bay Area that I watched on that show when I was a kid, and it's like, my life flashing before my eyes.
Yeah. Well, it's so bizarre because back then they were so there's only so much you can say and you can say. Yeah. And I actually had a joke about that. Throw it away. No. Can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
That's filthy. And I think, that's filthy? Have you seen me? I'm cleaning up so hard for you people. So I had to say butt cleavage. It's ridiculous. It's just crazy. It was crazy. And then at those days, they had you sign contracts, and I want you to know I never, ever signed one of these. I did not initial it. I changed it according to my lawyer's instructions, that the Bud Friedman would own the material on that tape that you did for that show from that moment until the end of time. That was actually on those contracts.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah, I would always cross that out, and I would put a date on it and initial it, and nobody ever looked at it, so they signed it.
Oh, I'm sure you weren't the only one, because I've heard a lot of comedians on those shows do that material in other shows.
Oh, yeah. Well, it wouldn't hold up in court. It didn't, actually. And that was a time, wasn't it? There was comedy everywhere and comedy clubs everywhere.
Yeah,
So much work and so much money for the work.
I was way younger than I should have been watching these cable comedy shows. I mean, it was pretty crazy, all the ones I saw.
Who's your favorite comic?
Oh,
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, famous, big, famous, well-known, out there comic. Because my favorite comics are usually the ones most people don't know about, because they just never got the chance.
well, my favorite, the one that I saw that influenced me, that made me want to do stand up from the moment I saw it, was Sam Kinison.
Yeah.
He was.
Oh my God, I loved him.
God, he was brilliant.
I had the best experience with him. I had heard you hear all kinds of horrible things about him.
Yeah.
You heard. And then we were in Montreal at the Just for Laughs festival. It was my first time up there at the same time. And I got in the elevator with him and a couple other comics. Mm-hmm. And he knew who I was. He knew my material. And he asked me to meet him in the hotel bar for a drink so we could talk. Right. And he's like, don't worry about it. It's not like, some pervy thing. I honestly, God, just want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I did. I met him, and it was one of the most, he was charming and kind and considerate and funny, and he gave you a sense of peace being around him.
Yeah.
Which shocked me. That is not what I expected,
Mm-hmm.
But he was great. And then years and years and years and years and years later, when I was on Unhappily Ever After, Jessica Hahn was engaged to one of the executive producers, and she used to come to my room, and we'd sit and talk.
Right.
He said I was the only person that made her feel comfortable, and that she'd heard of me from Sam before he died.
Mm-hmm.
So it's such a weird world, isn't it? It's like a small, creepy kind of place.
Yeah, it is. And I've heard all these crazy stories. Like a couple weeks ago, I interviewed Rick Wright, and he told me some Comedy Store stories about Sam, and just how crazy he would be, when he was under the influence of cocaine and stuff.
Yeah. I would go to the Comedy Store to watch my friends and, check out other comics and enjoy the show. And every time I knew he was going to be there, I would go. I didn't care. I would sneak in the kitchen door if it was too full. I didn't care. Let him fill me out. But there are just some comics that you need to watch.
Right.
You really need to watch them. And he was one of those for me, because I knew he was just, 85% of the time, he was just fucked up.
Right.
And I would sit there and think to myself, if he can do this when he's out of his mind, what could he possibly do if he were in it?
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing to watch him switch channels and maintain that kind of control, and to take the deadest crowd in the universe and have them completely wide awake, grateful, and crazy within 5 minutes. That was this amazing skill.
Yeah, my top three comedians that influenced me when I was a kid were Sam Kinison, Bobcat Goldthwait, and Andrew Dice Clay.
Those are good choices. Well, I've always liked all three of them. It's funny, Andrew took up so much crap, Yeah. Because he did so many inappropriate, quote-unquote, unacceptable jokes. Mm-hmm. And I was always shocked that people do not get that this nice Jewish boy from New York, from Staten Island, is actually just playing a character, and this character works so well. This guy is such a good actor, you don't know the difference.
I know. Even I thought that way when I was a kid. Like, I didn't know the difference. I thought he was really himself on stage. I didn't know it was a character until I got older. But it didn't offend me. I fucking loved it. It
is, and then that's the thing. It's those guys. So many. Cheech and Chong was a big influence for me.
Mm-hmm, me too. I love those guys.
Oh, my dad got their albums.
Yeah.
We would sit down and he would say, "Got you something?" I'm like a kid. I'm not even 18 yet, and he's going, "Listen to this."
Yeah.
And Mom's Mabley and Rusty Warren and oh my God, he just brought me the most off-track comics album, and we would sit in our little little library at our house, and I would listen to those, and just laugh. So it's amazing to me that I was fortunate enough to have a dad who was liberal-minded enough to realize I had a penchant for comedy, and that maybe it would lead somewhere with me. So he brought all those albums home for me when I'm like 13, 14, 15 years old. And Tom Lear albums with the singing and the Vatican Rag and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He brought those. So that was interesting. It was really interesting to me who my influences were. They weren't your regular influences. Dodie Fields. I love Dodie Fields.
Yeah, Dodie Fields was funny.
It's so bizarre. And I always thought Bette Midler,
Yeah.
she should just do stand-up.
Oh, yeah. She'd be great. She'd be great doing stand-up.
Tucker, very funny,
Yeah.
See, I'm 60, so I'm reaching back to a generation that people are going, who? What?
Oh, that's all the stuff I grew up on. I've always been an old soul.
I think that's important. I think that's, you know what? I think that's what makes a good comic. Old souls. And most comics I know have pretty old souls.
Yeah.
I don't really know any young comics at this point. I really don't, because I just haven't done stand-up for like the past 8 years. And there's a good reason for that. I spent 5 years being an in-home caretaker for my father-in-law during his illness and death. And then right after he passed, my mother started downhill.
Oh.
And she died a little over a year ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You know what? Oh, well, thank you. And she was 90 years old, and every day she'd look at me and go, I'm 90. You realize that I'm 90? I'm going, yeah, Mama, I know you're 90. She goes, who the hell wants to live this long? This has got to be some kind of a mistake. But she was very, very, both my parents were incredibly funny people. Mm-hmm. And going through that experience and being away from everything, not everything, I did do some acting when I could, and I did some benefits when I could. But when I could meant that I left my husband alone with his father, who required a tremendous amount of care. Mm-hmm. And, I'd be gone for a week filming something, and I'd come home, and he'd be, oh, my God, he'd look 150 years old and just exhausted. And because my father-in-law was bedridden and needed dialysis daily, and it was just hard. But throughout all of this stuff, I've gotten more life experience and stuff that I have no knowledge of. You know what I mean? Scary, real-life stuff. And there's a lot of humor in that stuff. And we're actually writing a script for a series right now.
Nice.
About that stuff.
Nice.
And it's very dark. And it's very funny. But, that's just the reality of it. That's true. You get a certain age, everybody starts dying.
Right.
And it's an inevitability, and you can sit around and be depressed about it and feel horrible about it, or you can take the opportunity to learn what you can from those experiences and try and find the humor. And the last thing my mother did was laugh. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
And, the last thing my father said to me, he called me on the phone the night before he died, and he said, I just called to say goodbye. And he said all these marvelous things to me, just the most loving, kind, supportive things. And I said, oh, Daddy, please, I'll see you soon. And he goes, oh, sweet Jesus, I hope not.
I'd be like, gee, thanks.
He was gone within 3 hours of that phone call. But it's one of those things where you have to find the humor in things or you're not going to survive. You just won't.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Humor is what keeps us going.
The amazing thing is that going through what I've gone through, and it's been tough, and fights over the estates, and just stupid things. Incredibly stupid things.
Right.
I want this bowl, okay? Take the frickin' bowl. Well, you can't have it. I'm like, I said take it. Yeah, but you don't understand. I'm taking it. I'm like, you want to fight? You want to fight with me? Because if you fight with me, you'll be crying in a half an hour. You know that. Mm-hmm. Just take the stinking bowl. It's a bowl.
Right.
All the diaries that my parents had. And you learn a whole lot more about life from that than a bowl.
Yep.
We're actually referring.
Yeah.
It is funny. If you just,
Mm-hmm.
life has to be funny. If it's not funny, I'm going to go to Alaska. I'm stripping down naked. I'm jumping on an ice floe. That's it. It's like people go, well, you don't have a retirement account. What do you do? Because you know how it is. You're either in the money or you're out of the money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just show business. That's just acting. That's just stand-up. That's just writing. That's just any of this creative stuff that we do. You're either up or you're down. So you have to learn to moderate everything. And
Right.
It's just one of those things where I just think, oh, man, I'm 60 years old. I've been doing this since I was 19. I don't know how I could do anything. I was a teacher. Isn't that frightening?
Yeah. I'd love to be taught by you.
Me, by your dad. That was it. So, going through all this, there's a lot. I think people pretend throughout life so much, don't you?
Yeah.
You look at your neighbors and go, oh, look, 2 kids, 2 cars, 2 happy parents.
Yeah, but behind the scenes, they're into S&M.
Satanism, it's all good. The weird thing is having a kid and having my daughter come home from school
Mm-hmm.
and I said, I'm married. So everybody knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm an actress, I'm a comic, I write. And I said, that's what I do for a living, so people know the name of people who do those things.
Right.
But my teacher said you have a dirty mouth.
Yeah, you're going to run into that every now and then.
Yeah, none of people in town are. And she said, I don't want anybody to know that you're my mother. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I get it. I totally get it. And she's a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And the first 2 years, fine, nobody knew. And then at the beginning of this year, she used me in a couple of photo projects that she did.
Oh, nice.
And every professor she had went, oh, that's your mother. She does the jungle fucking thing. So she's kind of like, okay, it's out. And it's not, Mom, it's not, they say, oh, I saw her on this show or that movie. Or, oh, I saw her at Susan Salad. She's like, no, I saw your mother does the jungle fucking thing. So, yeah, it does leave its legacy.
Yeah. I remember when you were in Comedy's Dirtiest Dozen, you did a bit about having sex with Pee Wee Herman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite ironic because you played the mermaid lady in Big Top Pee Wee.
Yes, I did. That was so much fun.
Yeah, well, yeah. How did you get that?
He called me and asked me if I wanted to do it.
You knew him from the comedy clubs?
I was part owner of a comedy cabaret in Minneapolis, Minnesota, before I moved out here.
Mm-hmm.
And just as Pee Wee's Playhouse was a stage show at the time.
Yep.
And we just knew about him from looking at alternative comics and alternative comedy. And, when you are one, you have a tendency to just look. And he wasn't as known then as he was going to be.
Of course.
So we just called him and asked him if he wanted to play our little club. And to spice it up, we contacted the Guthrie Theater and told them, if you offer him a gig, we can get him in. So they did.
Right. Rick told me about how he got into being in the Roxy Theater stage show and all that.
Oh yeah. So I got to do that, and it was funny because then when I came out here, he just called me and said, "Hey, you want to be the mermaid in my movie?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I did have to go audition. I did have to stand there in a black leotard, sit around so they could see my body. It was not sexual harassment. It was like I'm playing a showgirl and a mermaid, and I'm going to be in a bra and bottom most of the time. So it's kind of important to know if I had like huge appendix scars or heart surgery or some enormous thing that nobody knew about, big hairy mole.
Oh, I got plenty of those scars from my accident. I got gallbladder scars, all that stuff.
Oh, man.
Don't worry, it's sexy.
Man. See, that just, it just makes me, makes my teeth hurt thinking about being in an accident.
Yeah.
It does. I guess that's one of my biggest fears, to be honest. I hate the dark. Let's just be honest. I hate the dark. Scared to death of the dark. Not fond of fire.
Nope.
Fire scares the hell out of me, and it didn't until I moved here, and I'm in my house, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's banging on the front door, and it's 4 sheriffs saying, "You have to go, and you have to go now." And I look down the street, and I can see the flames coming towards us.
Oh, my God. Terrible.
And then, so we were fine, the house was fine, they stopped it before it got to us. Then we move, and the next place we move, the sheriff comes to the door during a fire and says, "It's too late to get out. You can't get out. So if we need to, we'll airlift you and your family." I'm like, "What?" And I walk outside, and you can see the flames 2 houses down the street from me.
Wow, that's crazy.
So after those 2 things, it's sort of like fire is like a living beast that just wants to eat you.
Yeah.
And it's very scary. Very, very scary. But fortunately, neither time our houses were never affected.
Fire scares me too, yeah. I was supposed to go.
Earthquakes.
I was supposed to go to a horror convention in the Bay Area in October, and it got canceled because of the fires.
Oh.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed.
Big into horror? You love horror?
Oh yeah, that's the general theme of this show. But I'm also trying to like branch out and like talk to comedians too on the show.
I love horror.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite thing.
What's your favorite horror movies?
My very favorite horror movies are the original Nosferatu. What version?
The what movies?
Nosferatu. The original Dracula.
Oh, the original Dracula.
Silent film.
Mm-hmm.
That actor is so good, you can literally smell the death rot on him.
Yeah.
I love that. And I don't know if it qualifies as an actual horror movie in a Eraserhead.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Just love that. And then oddly enough, I love Creature from the Lagoon.
Yep.
And God, there's so many.
I almost met him at that convention too, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, Rico Browning.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
See, this is weird. When I was Vincent Price was an artist.
Yep.
And my father was the head of the art department at Wilmington College, which is the Quaker Fine Arts Institute in my hometown. Mm-hmm. And he invited Vincent Price to come and show some of his paintings and to speak. And Mr. Price set him up on. I was a baby. He held me and fed me a bottle.
What?
Yeah. And I just wish I would, I don't remember it. Of course I don't remember it. But there are pictures.
Oh my God, that's creepy.
And it's one of those things where you go, you're just an infant. Vincent Price holds you. And then the next thing you know, all I've done to do is watch horror movies. I think it was osmosis. But he was wonderful. He was a wonderful horror actor.
Wow. That
Bela Lugosi. Oh my God.
Yeah, I love like the very first Friday the 13th movie is like my favorite slasher movie of all time.
That is a great one. I think that set a precedent for how they should be. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I love the ones before that, like Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I love Friday the 13th, though.
Yeah, it was more engaging, and it kept you
Mm-hmm.
guessing more, I think.
Mm-hmm. I
The
love
original Texas Chainsaw was just so, oh, God, it hurt.
it's so tame though nowadays.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It really, really is.
I also
I
love
wish somebody... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I also love George A. Romero's zombie trilogy.
Yes.
Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, um, The Shining.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, classics.
Thing.
Yep.
You like this? I like the thing with Kurt Russell. Of course, I like Kurt Russell.
Oh, I was in Burbank a couple months ago at Son of Monster Palooza, and the cast of the thing, except for Kurt Russell, was there, and their line was so long I didn't even get to meet them.
Oh, my God. That was the perfect cast, wasn't it?
Yep. Wilford
It really,
Brimley.
really was.
Yeah. Yeah, Wilford Brimley, David Clennon, Keith David. Yeah, it's a great cast.
Marvelous cast.
Last night I watched an episode of My Talk Show.
Oh, my God. Where did you find that?
Oh, they're on YouTube.
Oh, of course. Oh, I should check those out. I haven't seen that since I did it.
It was the
My
episode.
daughter's never seen it.
It was the episode with David Faustino
Oh,
and Pam Stone is in that episode too.
great. You know what was great about that show?
It was so innovative.
Nobody that was on that show was anything but gracious and fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was such an innovative show. I mean, a show like that, I don't think ever existed before, and it hasn't existed since.
That's true. That's very, very true. And Cynthia Stevenson was so perfect.
Mm-hmm. I know. I haven't seen her since she was in that Billy Crystal movie, Forget Paris.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, she had some kids, and I don't know. Well, I mean, as far as I know, she'll still work, but she's just the most, you know, she's like, this is weird. It's like, okay, Sam Kinison, B.B. King, Cynthia Stevenson, those are people, the minute you enter the room where they are,
Mm-hmm.
feel calm. You just feel this weird calm.
Did you open for BB?
I did open for BB. Yes, I did.
Oh my God! Tell me about that.
That was the most amazing thing in the world because I was still doing props. I was real early on in my career, and I was still doing props. Ashamedly. Not really ashamedly. I think I'm supposed to say I was ashamed I used props.
Yeah.
But I'm not. But, yeah, and I opened for him, and it was at a university auditorium, and the police would not let anybody get up and dance. No blocking the aisle. So BB wasn't real pleased about that, and people did stand up and dance where their seats were. But it was interesting because after the show, you know, I'm shaking. I'm in the presence of BB King, and he's talking to me like he knows me, and we've been friends forever, which makes you shake a little harder, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's just an amazing man, and after the show, one of his guys came and got me and said, hey, BB wants to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I went to his dressing room, and he told me how much he enjoyed me and how funny I was. And he said, I always have pictures taken after every show. And he said, anything you want. And I said, I would love a picture with you and Louise, and I would love one of just you and Louise. And he said, okay, fine. And he goes, who's the one of just me and Louise for? And I said, my parents. And I blushed about, you know, so ham bone. But he actually wrote them a letter, had the picture autographed. He autographed the picture, had it printed in color, and sent it to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Who does that? Who has the time for that?
I know. It's pretty incredible.
But he was just, you know, he was great. He was great, a phenomenally great guy. And just, you know, just so amazing. You walk into the room and immediately you're at peace and the whole world is pretty and everything's fine. And he just sat there and plucked up the guitar and sang a few things with me. And I thought, oh, I'm going to walk out of here and die now and be happy.
Yeah, I was like 2 weeks away from getting out of the hospital when he died, and I just couldn't believe it because I thought that guy was going to live forever.
So did I. I literally sat down and cried.
Yeah.
That's a huge loss. Just a huge loss. And talk about estate arguments. There was a folder that photograph and that letter and those signatures were in. I knew exactly where it was. My sister visits the house when I'm not there. Mm-hmm. I go back when she's not there to get 4 things. That's it. That's all I wanted. 4 things. The picture's gone.
Yeah.
So if anybody sees it on eBay, let me know. I'm going to buy my own memorabilia back. But that's one of those things that I did, and like everybody in my family, of every age, was just thrilled for me. Mm-hmm. Just absolutely thrilled. And you know how it is. It's like, with the kind of comedy that I do and the kind of things I talk about, not all of my Appalachian relatives and Southern relatives are terribly pleased with me.
Yeah. when you did, mm-hmm, when you did your Showtime special Straight Up, you did that the old Cobb's in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're up there dressed in black, smoking a cigarette, bashing men. I just love it. I had it completely memorized when I was 8. I got into so much trouble.
Oh my god!
I didn't know what I was talking about, but I just loved hearing all those bad words.
Now I have a question to ask you, and answer this honestly.
Okay.
When I bash men, I'm being satirical. Can you tell that, or does it sound like I mean it?
No, it sounds like you're satirical.
Good. Because in all these years, in like 40 years doing stand-up, I've only had 2 or 3 guys from the audience yell at me, "Man, hater, what's the matter with you?" And to that, I've always had this response, "Buddy, I'm not talking about you. So if it's hitting close enough to home that you're feeling personally assaulted, maybe you are the asshole I'm talking about." And that always shuts them up. But, that's only, out of all these years, only 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, good. Because I don't dislike men. I dislike individuals.
Yeah. Same here, I'm not very well liked by a lot of female comics in the Bay Area because they think that I mean what I say when I talk about women and sex, right? But because of these like Hollywood scandals that are happening now, there's so many jokes I have to eliminate or they'll take it out of context.
Well, see, that's the thing. And, I'm in a hot debate right now with a couple of friends because they're women and they are perfectly willing to believe what any woman says. Mm-hmm. Unquestionably. And that's stupid. I'm sorry, but it's just stupid. Women lie about this stuff.
Oh, yeah, they do.
There are women out there who lie about these things.
Oh, yeah.
They will say things about perfectly innocent, decent men who have never in their lives done anything like they're being accused of. And yet these women are, but so-and-so said, and somebody said, and 3 women said, and I'm like, yes, so what? That doesn't make it true. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's so dangerous just to fall into the trap of believing everything without a thorough and genuine investigation because innocent men are being harmed and so are their families and their kids and their careers, and it's just not right. Now, those who honestly did those things definitely should be punished. I was assaulted twice, and it took another comic to keep me from being raped one night.
Wow.
But the guy who did that is dead. He died in 2013. As a real estate agent,
Wow.
After me, he did rape 2 other women, and he went to prison. And when he came out, nobody wanted to deal with him anymore. Thank God.
Oh my God.
And he moved to a different state and became a real estate agent and died of a massive coronary in 2013.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's interesting because now this is the truth, and I don't know. You wouldn't know this, but anybody who was doing stand-up at the height in the 80s, we were doing road gigs, we're traveling together, we're in condos together.
Right.
You do USO shows, you do these extended things, and it's travel, rehearse, perform, interviews, photographs, interviews, travel, rehearse, and it's exhausting. And guys act out, people act out, women act out. And if there are 2 very famous comics to this day whose lives I could desperately ruin, absolutely unconditionally ruin, and I have witnesses to back up everything I have to say, who grabbed my ass
Right.
and said unkind things to me. And honest to God, the number of comics in the 80s who pulled their penises out and showed them to me,
Oh my God.
ridiculous. What do you do when somebody does that? I'll tell you what I did. You slap it. Or you yawn and walk away. But that was part of the atmosphere in the 80s.
Oh my God.
And it was joking around. And neither one of those guys that did any ass grabbing with me or said any of those things to me, neither one of them meant it. It was just kidding around. They are kind, good, decent men who have helped me in my life and career a lot. And one of them is the one who kept me from being raped that one night. So why would I say anything about that? That was the atmosphere. Sexual joking around and grabbing. They grabbed each other's asses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were grabbing each other's butts, and they were grabbing each other's dicks. And, it's just... And while I do not, absolutely, and having been an assault victim, I don't condone that kind of behavior seriously at all. But I'm also not going to condemn people for an atmosphere that was prevalent within a specific group in the 80s and destroy people's lives over a couple of ass grabs and a dirty joke. I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
And so I'm sort of, again, being vilified by some people for that.
I'll tell you though, ever since the podcast came out, I'm finding out more and more about people, especially comedians, like behind the curtain and stuff. Whether it's about Sam Kinison or Eddie Murphy or Barry Diamond, I'm hearing all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it was, whether it was just because it's me, and I've always, even growing up, I was one of the guys. So, yeah. I guess that when you just feel that way about yourself, and there was a lot, this is my favorite thing about my career that I think is just so silly. Because I didn't sleep with other comics, word got around that I was a lesbian.
I can believe that. You do exude it, but I know you're not.
Well, she's kind of manly and she wouldn't sleep with me, so clearly she must be a lesbian. And it's like, the only thing I ever said about that was quit insulting the lesbian. So, yeah. But it was funny that was the answer.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't them being inappropriate or being wrong or being nasty. It was me.
Mm-hmm.
Poor old lesbian Stephanie. Don't sleep with anybody. But it was very prevalent, and that was the 80s. Oh, my God. I'm allergic to the coca plant, so I didn't do it. But there was a lot of coke out there.
Yeah.
People were doing a lot of coke and having a lot of sex with a bunch of different people. And it was a very sexually tense atmosphere.
Oh, when you used to go to the Comedy Store a lot, did you see all those freaks and weirdos from the Roxy and the Rainbow go there?
Yeah, I did.
I heard it was fucking evil there in the late 80s.
It was, honestly, it was. And I quit going there because I wasn't going to get any stage time. Mickey was never going to give me any stage time. And then because I was working at the Improv so much, that was, forget it.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. You don't get to do both. You didn't get to do both. And I did do the Laugh Factory, but I never really did. I think I maybe worked it there, twice in all these years.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go watch. And even at a certain point, I just went, I'm not going there anymore. It's just creepy and it feels dangerous, and I don't want to feel that. I don't want to be in there.
I've been to the Comedy Store 3 times, and I'll tell you, I feel the presence of the supernatural when I go there, and
yeah,
those headshots on the wall there in the OR, oh my God, they are spooky.
They are spooky.
Because everybody's so young, and you see all these famous comics when they were young, but yet you see all these like comics that like never made it, and you wonder why, and you wonder who's dead and who's not,
It's true. It's amazing, and the number of comics who are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Such a phenomenal amount. So many, overdoses and so many suicides. And so many comics dying of cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's overwhelming. It really can get overwhelming. Car accidents, all these things. At one point my dad said it seems like you guys are all cursed.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe, I don't know. I'm fine. But, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Literally just opened the window to look outside.
Like I'm a big enough comedy aficionado. Like I can look at those headshots and go, I know who this obscure comic is. Oh, here's Fred Asparagus. Oh, here's Vic Dunlop. Somebody like that.
I knew those guys. It's amazing. Vic passed away.
Yeah, and so did Fred.
Yeah. And it's just amazing to me. And sometimes I look at those pictures and I go, where did they go? I know they're still living, breathing, and moving around, but what happened? And sometimes you can find out. Sometimes comics just quit.
Yeah.
They just quit and moved on to something else because it did become so highly political.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of dirty moves made and a lot of backstabbing and intentional words of destruction and disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
It was nasty. People always said, "Oh, it's such a great family community." Well, it's like a family where they want to kill each other. It was.
Yeah. It's always been that way.
Camaraderie disappeared.
Oh, let me tell you about the quote unquote camaraderie of the Bay Area. Right? There's so many pothead comics out there that like only book you if you smoke pot too, and like if you sell them pot, they'll give you stage time. I mean, it is just bullshit.
That is bullshit. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I did this.
That's crazy.
Last year, right there at the San Jose Improv, there was this open mic contest. The first place winner gets to open for big names, and the second place winner gets to MC for big names, right? And I did 3 shows in which I killed and did not place at all. I did one show where I completely ate shit, and something really fucked up happened that night. I'll tell you that in a moment. But then I did a 5th show, which I was booked for this amateur showcase, in which I did really, really good, right? But that one night, though, that 4th show, there was this guy who I knew from Santa Cruz who participated in the contest, right? After I ate shit, he comes on like maybe 2-3 comics later, and he gets one laugh, and at 90 seconds they give him the light, and it's usually about 4 minutes in they give you the light. They gave him about 90 seconds because he was bombing badly, and then he won first place, and I was like, what the fuck? And he's a pot dealer too,
well, there you go. That's why he won.
Then a couple days later, they announce on Facebook the contest has been canceled because of cheating, And I'm thinking, gee, I wonder what the fuck that is.
Man.
I was pissed.
You should be pissed. I don't believe in stand-up contests because, as I said, I was part owner of the Comedy Cabaret in Minneapolis for years.
Right.
And we had a comedy contest.
Right.
And I'm sitting there at the judges' table, and I'm watching the two other owners that I am in business with, and another comic who was asked to come and be a judge, sit at that table with me, and they are intentionally making a person win who wasn't as funny.
Oh, my God.
Diane Ford was in that contest. Diane Ford. You know Diane Ford.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. She got all zeros. Kiss my ass. When does Diane Ford get all zeros? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it was one of those things where I'm sitting there and I literally took them all outside and went, you sons of bitches have fixed this goddamn thing. You made a deal. You think you're cute. You didn't tell me because I'm a girl and I don't matter. I said, you know what? I'm telling everybody. And one of the owners walked up to me and shoved me and said, if you do, it's the end of you. And I went, oh, wait, now you're threatening me?
My God.
So go ahead, push it, pal. Push it. And the person who they decided to win went ahead and win, and every comic in that contest knew exactly what happened by the time I was done at the end of the week. And I told them, so it was totally fixed. And it was fixed so that one owner that pushed me and threatened me could get a booking he couldn't get otherwise as a comic.
Oh, that's fucked up, yeah.
All these people were sacrificed. All these people were humiliated and used just so he could get something he couldn't get on his own.
That's fucked up.
And right at that moment, and that was, oh my God, that was like 1982. Right at that moment, I just, no more contests. I don't believe in them. They're all rigged.
Yeah, I don't believe in them either, but I just did them that was my excuse, so I could play the improv because it's always been my dream, and I did,
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, it's really interesting. And it's funny since I haven't done stand-up in so long except for, benefits. I had signed with new management a couple of years ago, and we were talking about it. And this could be good, enlightening for you. They said, you're not doing clubs anymore. You're not going to do a club anymore. And I'm like, what? And they said, nope, you're not going to do the clubs because the way the clubs are run and handled is wrong, unfair,
Yep.
and basically is a payoff system.
Yep.
And they said, so you're not participating. We're going to work on your acting and your writing. And when you're back in the business in those aspects, then we're going to let people hire you to do stand-up. And I went, oh, I get it. Okay. And it's funny because, writing is great. I really love writing. And I'm putting all this great new material into the writing. And the plan is to get it written and then do that as on-stage material.
Yeah.
It all meshes together. Invite people to see it, help sell the script. But there's a couple people interested in the script already, which is kind of intimidating because the script I was writing this for me, for my catharsis. And I started asking people, have you ever been through anything like this? Do you know the number of people that I have talked to and the number of stories I have collected from other people who, when I've told them basically just the generalization of my story, have gone, you think that's fucking bad? Listen to what my brother did to me. Or you think you wouldn't believe the shit my sister pulled.
Yeah.
And it's just horrific. It is horrific how greedy and hateful people will be, even over the smallest estate, even over that one damn bowl.
Right.
And fortunately, you put all that stuff together, it ends up being it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Do you know Betsy Salkind?
I don't know her, but I know who she is.
Yeah, she posted a video on Facebook a couple weeks ago from YouTube of the set that she did in Boston back in '89, where she called out the club owner pretty much in her set, talking about what goes on behind the scenes and what you have to do to get stage time and all this stuff. And it was like 1% funny and 99% hard hitting and truthful, because it still goes on today.
Man.
Like, I couldn't believe she did it, but I admired her so much for it.
I have a great deal of respect for that. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I was told by one club owner in where it was Washington State. The guy that goes on before me does about 25 minutes of skull fucking jokes. and he wasn't funny. I mean, I got nothing against that, but just make it funny. And he's on stage doing this, the owner's saying to me, "You're not allowed to swear. You're not allowed to talk about sex. You're not allowed to bash men." And I looked at him and went, "The kid up there is talking about skull fucking Kennedy in the eye. Mm-hmm. And you're telling me I can't do something?"
Mm-hmm.
So I went up on stage and I just started my set, and it's going really well, and it's just a great crowd. It was a great show. And I stopped in the middle of it, and I asked the owner to stand up, and I said, "Right there's the man who's going to fire me after the night because of the set I just did. But the guy who did the skull fucking, he gets to stay. What do you think about that?" And the whole audience turned around and started throwing things at him.
Do you know what we need now? We need another comedian strike.
We do. I agree. I think that we do.
Because the one in 79 was about money, and this one could be about money, but it could also be about fairness and getting fucking stage time.
See, that's the thing that gets me. I get a private message from a comic, a male black comic, who says to me that he can't get stage time because this girl keeps telling the people who booked this club not to book him because he's not that funny and blah, 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 and he's black, and then. I said, "Well, first of all, you have a civil rights case on your hands."
Right.
Right there. And I said, "You have proof of this?" And he said, "Yeah, I do. I have recordings and I have text messages." And I went, "That's a civil rights case." And I said, "On the second place, not just against her, but against the club." And he said, "Well, if I do go up, she told me I could only do this and that and this and that. But she does jokes about rape and how funny it is to rape someone." Mm-hmm. And I said, "What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why are you letting some other comic tell you what you can and cannot do? What are you doing letting another comic run something they don't own and they have no right to own?" I said, "You and the other comics that she's doing this to need to stand up and confront her and confront the club owner and then walk out. So all he's left with is her." Mm-hmm. And I said, "It's going to be hard and it's going to be scary, but I've participated a couple of times in that kind of walkout." And I said, "Trust me, it works. It really, really does work. But no one has the right to tell you what you can and cannot do, what is or is not funny. That's for you and your audience to decide."
Right.
And I said, "I'll tell you what's not funny. Rape is not funny." Mm-mm. And he wouldn't tell me her name. And I said, "If you told me her name, I would go find her, and we would have a talk." And he's like, "No, I can't because you're kind of scary." I went, "Oh, no, I'm kind of scary, but I never hit anybody in my whole life." My last things are all verbal.
I don't joke about rape. However, I have used the word as a metaphor for certain things, and they've only gotten taken out of context one time each, but for the most part, people like them.
See, that's the thing. You can do that. That's fine. Mm-hmm. You actually stand on stage and say, "Oh, I knew this girl that got raped and she deserved it, and it's just so funny. She was bleeding from everywhere." That's not funny.
Yeah.
That's sociopathic, is what that is.
Yeah. I say, the day that I found out Trump got elected, I felt like William Shakespeare. I was like, to be raped by an elephant or raped by a donkey? That is the question.
Oh, that's good. See, there you go.
And then the other one I had was, obviously I have to drop this one now because of the scandals, but If a guy jacks off in front of a woman against her will, is that rape or Skype?
I'm sorry, but that's funny.
That's the intention.
See, that's the thing. I've literally been assaulted.
Yeah.
You know, there have been twice that I was literally an inch away from being raped. And one guy I beat the crap out of myself because I just got that mad.
Mm-hmm.
I literally did. I grabbed it and pulled and twisted and then shoved and then dug my nails in behind his ball sack, and then I elbowed him in the eyes. So, you know, kind of left him lying on the sidewalk screaming, and I drove away. And then I reported him, and they picked him up.
Oh, my God.
But I was so angry. I was just so angry because of the number of times, especially in the years when I was coming up, that guys just thought they could do whatever they wanted. And it wasn't the other comics. It was the bartender. It was the club owners. You know, it was the bouncers. It was some guy in the audience. And only one other comic ever tried anything, and that's the one I beat the crap out of.
I used to be a bouncer, and I protected every woman. I walked them to their cars. I did all that stuff, and I would have done the same for you if I had been old enough, Stephanie.
Well, I got to tell you that 99% of the time, working with a male comic, they always took care of me, always looked after me, always walked me to my car, and always was genuinely concerned. And for that, I am truly grateful, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful because it was too dangerous. It was just too dangerous for us out there on our own. And it was, you know, I don't regret anything because I think everything you go through teaches you a lesson and makes you wise up more. And I'm just really grateful that, you know, nothing more happened to me than did happen to me. Which is good. And it was the drug thing that really drove me the craziest.
It was
horrible being in a condo at 2 a.m. and walking up because you hear this weird noise and finding one of the comics that you're working with lying on the sofa, bleeding from his nose, unconscious and unresponsive.
Yeah.
You just go, seriously, do I have to do this again?
Yeah. God.
And I think that was that and the lack of respect for women was so rampant in the 80s. And it's interesting, this whole assault thing now, it's just, it's a mess. It's a huge mess. It's shocking to a lot of people, but no, it's been this way in acting and, you know, everything I've ever done. It's always been incredibly misogynistic.
Yeah.
But if you have to be careful who you work with, you have to be willing to say, no, I'm not working with that person.
Right.
And you have to stand up for yourself. And yeah, it's going to cost you. It will cost you. But in the end, you come out on top. You'll be all right. And it's like so many people have said to me, including my representative, many different representatives, if you would just be more agreeable, more demure, and play the politics better, you'd be farther along. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to wake up every morning and look at me.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to sell my soul for anything. Sorry. And I got a daughter. What does that teach her?
Yeah.
So, get out. See, now I have the other cat.
When I hear about all these assault claims, in Hollywood, I think to myself, you know, where's the women that gave in because I need help in my career. You know?
You know what I want to know? I want to know where all the people are that were sexually harassed by females.
Oh yeah, but
that happens.
It does happen.
Let's talk about that.
But so many of the men don't care about that. They're actually flattered.
That's funny. That's what my husband said. My husband said, no man ever thinks he's being assaulted by a woman. He thinks he's being complimented, honey. I thought, well, that's kind of a derogatory thing to say about your species, but okay. And listen, he met me and thought I was just the cutest little thing.
Of course.
And I'm like talking to him, and he goes, "Oh, I just love the way you're talking. So cute." I'm like, "Cute? No one's ever called this cute before." Frightening and offensive, yes, but cute, no. So, okay, third time's a charm. Let's go for it.
Yeah. I love how at the beginning of Straight Up, you like go through like all the guys that you've been with, and like some of them are like most of them are gay now.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, that's true. That is actually true. And Bruce and his big white balls. That was my favorite.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. I will say this, I hated my hair.
Oh, I liked your hair.
Oh, see, it was just this big mop of curly hair, and they kept trying to control it, and I kept going, "Stop touching it, just let it go." Ask anybody who's ever done my hair, just kind of run your fingers through it and walk away. And they kept putting pins in it and hairspray, and I was like, "Stop it, you can't control this. You cannot control a hurricane. You can't put it in a bottle. You cannot control this hair. Leave it."
Mm-hmm.
But they kept doing it, and I just finally went, "Oh, fine. Leave me alone."
When you did that short-lived show, Buddling Through.
Yeah.
What do I have your permission to use the C word?
Certainly.
Was Jennifer Aniston a cunt back then?
No, she was not. I'll tell you what she was. She was very anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And a little desperate.
Yeah.
And whiny. I hate whiny. I don't like whiny.
Okay, she was pre-cunt.
Yeah. And you're going to love this. She was dating a guy who, I met him and she told me all about him, and I'm like going, "Dump him." She's like, "But, he could do this and he could do that." I'm like, "Jen, dump him, okay? You're going to be rich and famous. I promise you that someday you're going to marry Brad Pitt." Serious. I said this to her.
You did?
And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "This guy that you're with, he's going to suck the marrow out of your bones. Get rid of him."
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it kind of worked out. But it was so funny because everybody on that show, when she and Brad Pitt started dating, was calling me going, "How did you know?" I'm like, "I don't know. It was just shot in the dark." It just came out of my mouth. I'm not a psychic, okay? But she was whiny. I'll tell you the truth, she was whiny.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "I don't know. I don't want to wear this. I want to wear a sweater instead of a bathrobe." And it was so whiny that there was at one point, and we only did, 6 or 9 episodes, about halfway through.
Yeah.
And Robbie Benson directed, and we had the best crew in the universe. Honest to God, that was the most amazing crew I ever worked with up to that point or since. Just every one of those guys knew his job, and it was like breathing to all of them.
Nice.
So when a crew is that good, you rise to their level as an actor because you don't want to make any trouble for them. So there wasn't any goofing around about, where you're supposed to land or what kind of shot it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. And Robbie Benson, are you kidding me? This guy can direct anybody at any time and make them feel like they thought of it all by themselves. Even though you knew damn well it was all his idea and you were just following direction, he made you feel like you thought of it.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with a bunch of egotistical, insecure actors, that's the best thing to do. He was amazing. But it was just one of those things where, I was just went up to her at the craft table one day and I said, "Jennifer, it's okay that we got rid of all the white rice and had to do brown rice just for you. I said, that's okay. I hate brown rice. Most people hate brown rice. And I said, but hey, I'm willing to get a blue rice for you, but you got to stop whining. And she just turned bright red. What are you talking about? I said, everything you say, instead of you say, I have a question about this line, or I'm uncomfortable in this wardrobe. I don't want to say this. I don't want to wear that. I went, that shit don't cut it. And I'm sorry. I know you're experienced. I know you come from a family from the business. Your godfather's Telly Savalas, okay? I know you know, but sometimes we don't know how we sound. And when I don't sound proper or polite or professional, I expect someone to kick my ass and tell me what I'm doing wrong. I want that. So I'm going to give you that gift. Stop whining. Unfortunately, she just hugged me and said thank you. And just, she was trying to reconcile with her mother at the same time. Telly Savalas was sick and actually died. Mm-hmm. And she was dealing with his boyfriend. So she had taken on this sort of whiny thing that she didn't even realize she was doing.
Yeah.
At least that's the story we're going with. But yeah, she was whiny. She was pretty whiny.
Yeah, I heard she's been known to make men cry on movie sets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Me, I would just roll my eyes and walk away. And she'd say, come on, we have to go and talk to them about this. And I'd say, I don't have any issue. I can work with it. You can't, so you talk to them. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to complain. You're lucky. You better get on your knees and thank whoever for every damn job you get. And you better remember every second of every day how many of us are out there and how fortunate you are that somebody saw you, found you, and put you there. And you better work your damn ass off to deserve where you are and be grateful for what you've got. And if you have an issue, it's a question. And you ask that question professionally, and you take the answer that you're given and do the best you can with it. Period. Mm-hmm. Period. Because the truth is, all this shit can stop tomorrow. Yep. You may never work again. I don't care who you are.
Yep.
And it's interesting getting back in the business because, 8 years is a long time. Yep. And because of all the stress that I've been through, I aged. Everybody always used to tell me, at least you don't look like your age at all, which was true. But I've definitely aged. And it's so funny because when I stepped out, I was told, you couldn't possibly be believed as anybody's mother that was over the age of 10. Now I'm going out for grandma parts. So that's how life affects you. And I'm good with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I haven't had any plastic surgeries yet. But my optometrist tells me I have to get my eyes lifted because it's starting to interfere with my vision. Oh. And I tell them mostly that's me not going to sleep until 4, and y'all making me have appointments at 8 in the morning. That's not my fault. But, you just, you need to re-enter it, you have to reinvent. And even as you grow older in the business, even if you work consistently, you got to reinvent. Even as a comic, as a voice actor, as everything, you change. Yep. So you have to reinvent yourself to make it okay, to make it believable. And you'll work forever as long as you're willing to reinvent and as long as you're capable of taking those 5 or so years where you don't get to work because nobody wants you anymore. But they'll want you again. You just got to reinvent.
Yep. Especially if, you've got a viable product that keeps selling, and longevity is there.
Yeah, it's like my voice. There was a period of time where I would go out for voice auditions, and I got everything. Everything I auditioned for, I got. And then after about 5 years, it was like, we don't want your kind of voice anymore. Oh. And they didn't. And it's cyclical, and it actually does happen. They wanted more feminine, lighter, chippier voices. And it became very evident the day I go to an audition. And the script says, every princess is named Barbie. I'm reading this one. Every princess is named Barbie. And the guy looked at me and went, you sound like Satan. I went, yeah, I know. I don't know why y'all brought me in here anyway. like you're kind of a war victim. I mean, I know. Just let me go home and stop humiliating myself. And he was a great guy with a great sense of humor, and he just said, I just love your voice. And I went, but it's not like the Barbie. And I said, besides, if I did these commercials, somebody from my hometown would call Mattel and tell him that I stripped my Barbie down naked and set her on fire when I was 11.
That's funny.
I did. I shaved her head. I put love and hate on her knuckles and 8 pins.
That's more sadistic than what I used to do with Barbie dolls. I used to lift up their shirts to see if they had belly buttons. True.
They never did.
Oh, some of them did.
I hated Barbies.
Some of them.
Hated Barbies, and she just looked at me and went, "Why?" Because I thought you would like one. She goes, "I don't want this doll. Nobody looks like this doll. Look at this doll. She's a freak." Next thing I know, she's got the head and arms and legs torn off, and she's making a mobile. So it was like...
Oh my God, I remember like about 15 years ago, there was this video that was on the internet where it was like a commercial advertisement for a Muslim Barbie. And it was a talking one. You pull the string and it says, "Hi, I can't read. Hi, I was beaten with a stick for talking to a grocer."
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was cracking up.
I'm sorry, you're killing me. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
We still have a big shoebox full of vivisected Barbies of my daughter's. She doesn't know it. But, she had a little friend that was a guy, a little childhood friend. And they would take the parts of the dolls and, like, he would tear his little cars apart, like the kind that you pull back and then they go forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? And then they would, like, glue Barbie's arms and head and stuff to those. Make these bizarre, like, creatures out of it. And we actually saved a shoebox full of vivisected parts. And we're going to present it to her when she moves into her own place.
Yeah.
And what's the funniest thing about her is she's the most non-violent person on the planet. She very rarely loses her shit. And when she does, oh, Lord. It's funny because that's what somebody said about me. It's like it takes so long for anybody to push you to your limit. But when you get there, sweet Jesus, God, everybody takes over. And my daughter's the same way. So it's kind of, she's a doll. And this is weird. This is my generation.
Yeah.
Baby boomers having millennials. And I didn't have her until I was 40.
Uh-huh.
So, that's kind of old. All my other friends were becoming grandparents from my hometown and stuff, and I still was just going, "No, this is the first and last one." And it's just so bizarre to think about the age difference between us and how things are different between us. But, I grew up smoking pot. A lot of pot in college.
Mm-hmm.
And after college. And drinking and partying and
Hell yes.
Graduating magna cum laude and all this stuff and going on wild adventures without telling your folks. My daughter and her group of friends, very studious. They don't drink because they're underage.
Yeah.
They don't do drugs. A couple of them have medical marijuana.
Yeah.
So occasionally, they'll all share just 1 or 2 hits. And I'm looking at them going, why are you guys so straight? And then you look at the parents and you go, oh, well, you're rebelling. I understand.
Yeah, I love pot.
I do too. And I think it should be legal recreationally all over the planet.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a prescription because I have a brain injury that causes chronic migraine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to me how they were perfectly willing to give me all the Percocet and codeine I could swallow for so long, but no pot.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you get medical marijuana that's specific to migraines,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need the other drugs anymore. It takes care of it. You're fine. You can function. If you use a vaporizer, you don't even get high.
Right.
And it's just, and I don't understand. I just don't understand why there's still such a complexity about it. They're still lying about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not, research proves all kinds of things. It kills cancer cells. It helps with pain like nothing else.
Lies are making the world go around. It's sad.
Yep. And we can all go out and get it drunk discussed, but, oh, God forbid you should sit at home and smoke a joint.
That's about all I can do now because I can't drink because of my accident and stuff.
Oh, man.
It's okay. I had plenty of good years before that.
Me too. I very rarely drink.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny because, you know, I stop and think about myself and I go, what do you do? Okay, you don't smoke cigarettes anymore. You smoke blue e-cigs with no tobacco in them because clearly it's an oral issue. You smoke medical marijuana and that's it. What happened to me? I go to the gym. I eat only eat meat once a week. It's kind of like, who am I?
Yeah.
I look in the mirror and go, I don't know you anymore, you old hag.
Oh my God.
I am getting a tattoo. Do you have any tattoos?
No. I wanted one. I wanted this one tattoo I saw of Bart Simpson mooning, and I wanted to get it. I wanted to get it on my tummy, and so my belly button could be his asshole. It's a cool one, yeah.
Oh man, that would hurt, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but pain is temporary, and art is forever.
That's true. I want to get one on the inside of my arm, just below my elbow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I want a crow. And I don't want some cute little, I don't want a crow, I want a raven. I don't want some cute little crow taking off in flight. I want Crayo, that German artist's depiction of the raven wearing boots.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want. And every time I mention it, somebody goes, well, that's sort of evil. I'm like, well, yeah. I guess if you want it to be, it can be. Birds and boots are evil. Fine. And I just want a small one. I don't want like a whole big thing, just like 3 inches tall.
Yeah.
But it's going to cost a fortune.
Yeah.
That's what gets me.
If
you want a really good one, it's expensive. And I found a great tattoo artist who does old school. So now I'm looking at his stuff going, maybe that's not what I want. Because I really like old school.
Yeah. Old school is good.
But I am not going to my grave without a tattoo. I'm sorry. When I was 12 years old, I announced to my father I was going to get a tattoo. Mm-hmm. And he said, honey, I think that's fine. And my mother threw a fit. How dare you mar your body? How dare you even think of it? I'm like, I'm 12, okay? There was a time I wanted to be a baker on Pluto. Maybe this is just another fantasy.
A baker on Pluto.
Yeah, space station's going to be everywhere when I'm grown up. We're going to be on all the planets, and everybody needs birthday cakes. That was my thinking.
Well, my mom wanted to be Mrs. John Travolta, but after his massage scandal, I don't think that's going to happen.
Nope, not going to happen. Oh my God. This is so bizarre, all this stuff about all these people. And the number of times I was in rooms with these people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, gross.
I wanted to ask you real quickly though. You got to be part of that trend where stand-up comedians were getting all these development deals, for sitcoms and stuff. Nowadays, that's so rare, and the few that do, their sitcoms don't even last that long. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because they're formulating. Everything is formulaic again. Because sitcoms have been gone for such a long time, and everything's been taken over by reality TV shows, which, of course, we know are not reality at all.
Right.
But are carefully scripted and contrived. But I think that, I think as a whole, we're ready for sitcoms, but it can't be the 1980s and 90s formulaic sitcom. We're too smart for that. And I think that what happens is, this happened to me during the early 90s, when was it? Yeah, it was like 95, 96. Mm-hmm. I'm on set working, and I'm doing an interview with Entertainment Tonight, and they came to me and said, oh, how would you feel about having a sitcom done based on your stand-up? And I said, I would love for that to happen. And they said, oh, great, because, we've heard rumors. And I said, it's not going to happen. And they both looked at me absolutely shocked. The only way it's going to happen is if I have complete artistic control. And that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not for at least another 30 years.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, you shouldn't say this. She goes, you cut that out. Well, you don't want to say anything negative. I said, it's not negative. It's just true. You cannot take a comics. Roseanne had total creative control. And God bless her for pushing it and getting it.
Yep.
I have so much respect for that.
Yep.
But then she also got a really bad reputation with it, which was not exactly warranted.
Yep.
And she was treated incredibly unfairly, and to this day it makes me angry. But when you take a comics stand-up, especially somebody who's been doing it a long time, what you take is you take their life experience that's been translated into comedy and added to and fictionalized, and you know exactly how stand-up works and how it's written and how it comes to be. You can't take all of that effort and all of that experience and all of that personalized communication and hand it to a bunch of writers and have them expect them to understand one little bit of it. All they're going to look for are the jokes, the setups, and the scenes.
Right.
They're not going to look for the meat, and without the meat, the comedy isn't funny.
Right.
You have to have the meat to have the meal, and without the meat, you just get some lame snacks that don't last. And that's my food analogy for today.
That's a great analogy. I mean, you see,
honestly, I think that's what the problem is. I really do.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you see Whitney Cummings and Jared Carmichael's shows not lasting, and I remember I went to go see Jared Carmichael at the Comedy Store last year, and after I got back, I was telling people I saw him, and they were like, Jared who? And then next thing you know, his show gets canceled.
See, if he had creative control, it would be a different story. If he had been the lead writer, it would have been a different story.
Yep.
And that's what I'm doing with mine. It's not, I have to have creative control on this. I have to be a writer on this. I have to have creative input and control. I don't need it 100% because I've never, I've never created and produced a sitcom. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to pretend that I would know how to do that, particularly now. I could have done it, in the 90s, but now the world is different. The business is different. I mean, even auditions, you don't go to auditions anymore. You self-tape at home, and you send them in, which I think is a horrific crime because they don't get to meet you. You don't get to meet them. There's nobody there saying, oh, great, let's try it again, only do this adjustment. So they don't even know if you can take a direction.
Yeah, and they don't know if you're nice or an asshole either.
Right, exactly. exactly.
Unless they've heard of you.
Right. And I don't like them, but I do them, of course, but I'm not terribly fond of them. But, I mean, you know, everything's so much different. So as I'm writing this pilot and series, it's very, very clear. I mean, I could be replaced. They could put somebody else in my part. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I'm writing it. But it's still me speaking.
Yep.
It's still experience. It's still my perception. And each character is so... We're developing each character so definitely and with such clarity that there's not going to be any room for, oh, let's make this character really into, oh, I don't know, fly fishing. No, let's not. That would be really funny if this character, like, you know, hiccups all the time. No. Just go. So I'm going to give him the meat. I'm going to try and, you know, I'm going to give him the meat and the truth and my voice. And, hey, if they don't want me in it, buy it from me. But I still get to be a producer. Mm-hmm. You know, I at least get to be a producer.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can write great stuff for yourself and they don't want you on it. And that's, you know, the way it goes. And I don't know if I'd be okay with that or not. I think I would. I'd actually like to do this so that it starts with a younger me and have somebody else play me.
Yeah.
And then get to me where I step in and play me.
Yeah.
You know, have different actresses play me until they get to me. I think that would be fun. Because God knows there's plenty of people who look like me out there who are anything unique. So, you know, but that's the problem. You admire and respect these creative people, and you like what they've done, but then you give them an opportunity to utilize it, expose it, and grow it, but then you take away control. And it wouldn't have been there in the first place if they hadn't controlled it.
Yep.
So it's ridiculous. It's just stupid.
Yeah, like, you know, I never thought of Louis C.K. as a great comic, but I like how he's a strong businessman, like how he goes to the network or the studio and says, you know, this is what I want to do, and I want to do it my way, you know, and if you don't want to do it, then I'll go somewhere else, and they usually give in to him.
Yeah, well, except for now.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you that shocked me more than anything. I'll be honest with you, that and Al Franken, I literally just sat on the floor and went, no.
Al Franken, that really shocked me. Louis C.K., I wasn't too surprised because I've heard him do interviews on podcasts where he talks about jacking off all the time.
See, I thought he was kidding.
Yeah.
To find out that was a reality, thank God he got it. You know, thank God he sees what he did, and that's hugely traumatic. That lasts, you know, that scars somebody for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he learned, and I'm glad he's apologized.
Yeah,
you know, but a very funny guy. I like his show, and I still have a great deal of respect for him as a business person.
Oh yeah, I just love that. You know, I think everybody should do that. Do what he does. You know.
Oh, me too. But that jacking off thing, nah.
Let me tell you something. If I jack off in front of somebody, they better be eating a bucket of popcorn. Because I will add more butter.
I'm such an idiot if I had to watch somebody and go, you're so not doing that right.
That's good. I like that.
Oh my God, why is it taking so long? Hurry. My show's coming on. Crap.
That was so good. Oh, I love you, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you. Man, it's easy to talk to you.
Oh, Oh, thank you so much.
It is. You get it. Oh, thank you. Thank you for getting it. It's so funny to try and explain some of this stuff to people. Like, well, why don't you just sell your idea and let them do whatever they want? It's like, no. Why don't you just sell your kid and let somebody else raise it?
Exactly. Like, hey, it happened to Charles Manson. Look what happened to him.
Hey, you know what I'm doing? Speaking of Charles Manson, I'm making a list of all the horrific things that happened and have come from my home state of Ohio.
Oh.
Charles Manson's from Cincinnati.
Yep.
Hustler Magazine, Cleveland. I mean, come on. It's like the state that has singularly more horrific things come from it.
Do you think he really did tell those kids to do it, or do you think that he was a scapegoat?
Who, Charles Manson?
Yeah.
I think he was one of the most charismatic, mind-bending people on the planet, and I think he got them all to do whatever he wanted them to do, and I don't even think he had to come right out and say it.
Yeah.
I think he had them so well tuned to what he wanted and so well disciplined as to live their lives to please Charlie that even if he had just in passing said, the people at this address really need to go.
Yeah.
They would have gone and killed him.
I mean, they spent 2 years with this guy. 2 years. And it's surprising how, nothing happened, from the very beginning, that, took 2 years for him to just go completely insane like this,
Yeah. Well, he didn't start out that sane to begin with. I mean, that's what's so bizarre is there's a book out there called The Sociopath Next Door. And I read this book a few years ago.
That's a good title.
Someone I was having to deal with, I literally called up a psychiatrist friend of mine and said, the behavior from this person that I'm having to work with is the spookiest shit I have ever encountered in my life. And I need you to help me know how to deal with this. So I tell this psychiatrist the behaviors, and I had made a list. I had made a journal. I'd written down changes in behavior, demands, things that were said, things that were done. And he said, what you have is a narcissistic sociopath. And I said, well, what do I do? And he said, they're going to make you feel crazy. They're going to gaslight you. And anything they do that's wrong or bad, they're going to blame on someone else, you or someone else. Their biggest trick is to lie. And he said, so 90% of the things they tell you is going to be a lie in the beginning, if not the end, of a manipulation to get you to sacrifice yourself, someone else, or something for them, and only for their amusement.
Yeah.
All they care about is inflicting pain. All they can feel is rage or joy at inflicting pain. And he gave me this book, and it said that, literally said 8 out of 10 people have sociopathic tendencies.
Wow. That sounds about right.
What a sociopath is and how they show up and all this stuff. And funny enough, I'm using that in the script. I'm using a lot of information in the script.
Well, they don't show up to the meetings.
Yeah. But Charles Manson was, he was a psychopath. And manipulation, deception, control, that's the primary thing. And I think that when you're good at being a psychopath or a sociopath, the manipulation is just easy. It's like just sprinkling sugar on cereal.
Yeah.
Makes everything seem better.
Yeah.
So I think he was just I think any of those kids would have done anything that he wanted them to do, and I think they did. I think there's a lot more bodies out there we don't know about.
Yeah. I don't know. My feelings are mixed, I mean, everything I read from all sides, seems valid, but, who knows which is the real one,
Well, that's true, because all the information we get is second, third, fourth hand, and it's sensationalized to some degree.
God, yeah. When he gets up and does those crazy dances.
Jeez, I wonder what it felt to stand in the same room with him or near him.
Must have been.
I mean, you had to pick up some nasty vibes, something.
Must have been bone chilling, yeah. There are musicians. There are like musicians and actors I've seen interviews with where they've said that they knew Charles Manson, before all that happened, during those 2 years, and they said that, he was a talented singer, songwriter, musician, but he was a whack job and nobody wanted to be around him.
Man.
And I've heard his songs. There's bootlegs of his songs on YouTube. He actually did have some musical talent.
I've heard some of that, and I was surprised. I really was.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of like, wow, there's skill there. Didn't Marilyn Manson do one of his songs?
I think so, because he definitely took his namesake.
Well, that's true. It's funny because we always do. Christmas is kind of weird at our house because my husband is a non-active. He's an inactive Jew, agnostic. That's what he calls himself, an inactive Jew agnostic. I was raised in a Quaker home.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter has simply been set free to explore, research, and experience every kind of spirituality or religion she has chosen to do. And it's just really interesting for us at Christmas. So every year at Christmas, we have to choose a theme. Like last year, our theme was airline booze. And we had our Christmas tree covered in those little bottles of booze they give you at the airline when you're flying.
Oh, my God.
And anytime anybody came over, we'd go, hey, want a drink? Take your choice. It was very popular. One year we did Barrel of Monkeys, where we just put all those Barrel of Monkeys all over the tree and the wreath and bananas, little toy bananas.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so funny because this year we're kind of like, well, what are we going to do? So my daughter chose the theme this year, and we all of our Christmas ornaments were destroyed in an earthquake, so we had to start over. And we're out shopping for them, and she goes, oh, well, here, this is a beautiful ornament, and it is. It's a beautiful glass ornament, and it's got glitter on it. I love glitter. It's so stupid to love glitter, because once it's in your house, it never leaves you. But I love glitter, and it's this little glittery white Chinese food takeout carton. You know the joke, right? We bring it home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Out of the bag, and he goes, oh, a tribute to Jews on Christmas.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I'm standing there and I went, is that offensive? He goes, no, it's true. Because every year on Christmas his family ordered Chinese. So
Yeah, that comedian Bonnie McFarlane, she said her father's an atheist, her mom's an agnostic, and every day in the house it's like there is no God. There might be.
That's this house. It's like my husband will say, "Oh, sweet Jesus," and I'm always telling you better call on somebody that knows you. And he looks at me and goes, he would know me better than you because he's a Jew too. I'm like, okay. Or I'll say Holy Mary, and they both look at me and go, I'm sorry, Quaker.
Quaker.
You don't get to go Catholic when it chooses you, okay? When you choose to. And then my daughter just read Anton LaVey's
oh, God.
Satanic Bible. And she comes to me, she's 20. She sits down and she says, Mother, do you realize that Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible actually suggests everything the Bible does? Brotherhood, love, be kind, be conscious, be conscientious, be aware, be loving, help others. I said, yeah, because I've read that book before myself. And I had to, because in college I had a major in religious philosophy. I thought it was going to be easy. But you know, it got really interesting.
Huh.
When you get to, like, the human sacrifice stuff and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, yeah. And she goes, well, why are people so opposed to it? And I said, well, it's just, I said, Harper, you know exactly why people are opposed to it. I said, come on. People who are highly religious think that if you don't believe in God and Jesus most of the time, I said, or at least God or some higher power, that, you know, you're going to be in great big stinking trouble. She said, but if you don't believe, how can you go to hell?
Mm-hmm.
I went, well, you can't because you don't believe. I went, look, it's all a question. It's just a question. We honestly don't know the answers. But I said, you know, just live to be a good person. That's all you can do, and don't take any shit from anybody. And she said, well, that's basically what this says. That's basically what the Bible says. But she says the difference is in Anton LaVey's book, it says that if someone, like, hits you or tries to hurt you or comes after you, you turn the other cheek. And I said, yes. And she goes, then if they do it again, you destroy them.
Or you slap them in the ass.
Yeah. And I just burst out laughing, and I went, well, that's kind of what all that smiting is about. So it's been a very interesting week. So we're just doing a tribute to all the different spiritual belief systems on our tree this year. So we have a robot. We have a pineapple. I don't know what that's about, but she said it counts for something.
Is there a dildo?
No, there's a pickle. You know about the Christmas pickle?
If it's edible, yes.
It's an old German tradition.
Oh.
And they hung a pickle on the tree, and whoever found the pickle got an extra present. Now, you explain that shit to me. First of all, why the hell would anybody hang a stinking pickle on their tree? And in the second place, why would that mean you got extra? I don't understand. It confuses me. And then, of course, we have our, Blondie ornament.
Blondie ornament?
Yeah, I made an ornament, you know, to honor Blondie. Like when my kid was small.
The comic strip?
And, no, the singer.
Oh, Deborah Harry, yeah, I love her.
Deborah Harry, yes.
Yeah.
So I made this Debbie Harry ornament, and it looked just like her. And I used this little doll head. But unfortunately, one of our dogs got a hold of it and destroyed everything but the head, so we still hang the head on the tree. We have Debbie Harry's head on our tree.
Nice.
Because music is a kind of religion, right? We're stretching so far for this. As you can tell.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a huge Blondie fan. In fact, I do this one joke in my act where I say my favorite Blondie song is the one where they say my name. Tommy! Tommy, call me anytime. Tommy! My tide is high.
Oh my God, you made me snort.
I love that.
Oh,
Do you, before we wrap it up here, do you have a favorite joke?
My favorite joke in the whole world is Sam Kinison. Jesus' last words. Ow! Ow!
Yeah. Oh, you jerk! Yeah, I love that. I love that.
That's my favorite joke ever in the whole world.
My favorite Kinison joke ever is, okay, you know that bit he used to do about necrophilia?
Yes.
Okay, the setup. Okay, he gives the audience the setup. They're completely mortified. And then he says, hey, I wasn't trying to sell this as a fucking home game.
I forgot that.
it kills me. I mean, I have to like rewind it every time. I mean, it gives me hysterics.
Oh my God. I'm weak now.
Well,
someone else is going to have to cook dinner.
Okay, let me tell you my favorite joke, and then we'll wrap this up.
Okay.
My favorite joke is this one Eddie Murphy told on his Delirious special. He told it to like a 13-year-old in the audience. A bear and a rabbit are taking a shit in the woods. The bear says to the rabbit, "Excuse me, sir, do you have a problem with shit sticking to your fur?" The rabbit says no, so the bear wiped his ass with the rabbit. I told that to a friend, right? And it went over her head. She was like, "Okay, and then what happened?" And I said, and then the rabbit died from the stink.
Oh my God, she didn't get it.
He didn't have time to jump in the river.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Oh man, my favorite jokes of all my jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Besides Jungle Fucking, my favorite because I do love that because that just came out of my mouth one night.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't write that.
You wrote it on stage.
Somebody had asked me a question, and I just started talking, and all that came out of my mouth. And one of my friends in the back had a tape recorder and turned it on. So I would remember what I said. I love that. But which one is my favorite joke now? Well, I'm not going to go there. Never mind.
I like when I like it when you're talking about nice guys, and then you're like, "Fuck you, pussy."
That's, you know what? I was going to say that one. That's the one that guys are always intimidated by. I'm scared to ask you out. You're kind of intimidating. Yeah, well, fuck you, pussy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love saying that. I don't know why I do, but I do.
I know, it's so good. Especially after you say it, you take a puff of your cigarette. You look like a female Andrew Dice Clay there.
You know, it's funny. Sometimes I feel like I kind of am. Have you watched Andrew on the cooking show?
I have, yeah, and I've watched it. I watched his sitcom on Showtime, which I think is hilarious.
It is. Yeah. I'm just glad he's back, man. Seriously.
Me too.
I really am. And he's a nice man. I don't care what anybody says. I worked with him quite a few times, and he was always extremely polite and very nice.
Yeah, I have
there.
I have a comedian friend. She met him at Tommy T's over in Pleasanton like 5-6 years ago, and she said, "Yeah, he was an absolute gentleman."
Yep. It's funny when you tell people that they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop it. The guy's a great actor. Okay, he's already proven that. He's a wonderful comic, and he's a nice man. You got a problem with that?
He's no doubt cocky like his persona, but he's still a nice guy.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. That's how it ought to be.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Well, Stephanie, I thank you so much for taking the time tonight to do this interview.
Oh, thank you. This has been really fun. I appreciate it a lot.
Oh, I appreciate it too, and when I move to LA in a year, I'd like to meet you in person.
Hey, absolutely, man. No, absolutely.
I do plan on coming down in April for the next horror convention.
Oh, good. Good.
If we can connect on Facebook, maybe we can arrange to meet then.
Absolutely, not a problem. We'll do it. Let's do it. It's a plan.
That'd be
excited.
That'd be
so. Back out now.
Yeah. That would be so awesome. Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. You take care. And hey, Merry, Happy Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Winter Solstice.
Yes, Merry fucking Christmas.
Thank you. Take care.
And I'll tag you in this on Facebook after I'm done.
Okay.
Okay.
You be well.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Stephanie Hodge. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Stephanie, for being my 40th guest and my longest interview ever, which is fucking awesome. 2 hours of just making jokes and talking about comedy. I absolutely appreciate it. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, join my comedy group, the whole 9 yards. Well, rest in peace, Brainwash. That's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes. Fucking radical.